Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Allahumma allimna ma yanfa'na wa anfa'na bima 'allamtana. Hello, my 10th grade students. Today, inshallah, we will discuss the second conditional. The second conditional. When we say the second conditional, then we are dealing with if clause. But here the case is different. The second conditional is used to talk about an imaginary situation, that's something that is impossible to happen. That is why we use a verb to in the first part. As we all know, the conditionals, the zero, the first and the second, they are divided into two parts. The sentence is divided into two parts. The part that has the if, and the other part we might use will or what. Yes, in the second conditional we use a past simple in the first part, the sentence, if conditional. In if sentence we use the past simple, and in the other part of the sentence we use what. As I said earlier, we use the past or the second conditional to talk about an imaginary action, imaginary situation in the present or in the future. Now, the first example here says, if I won $1 million, I would buy a new car. If I won $1 million, I would buy a new car. If you notice here, won is the past tense of the verb when. If I won $1 million, I would buy a new car. Then here I used the past tense. Then in the second part I used the word what instead of well. Another example, when I say, if I were you, I would quit smoking. Imagine that you have known a person that he is a smoker, he smokes, yeah, and you are about to advise him of quitting smoking, to quit smoking. Then you would say to him, if I were you, if I were in your position, if I were a smoker, what would I do? I would quit smoking. I would smoke no more. I would quit smoking. Right? Another example here, the third example. If I were the president, if I were the boss, if I were the leader, if I were the king, I would lower taxes. I would lower taxes. If I were the prime minister, yes, I would lower taxes. I would lower taxes. People would live comfortably. Another example, when we say they would stay longer if they had more time, if they had no time. Here, just like a switch between two sentences, I start with the second part, which is they would stay longer. They would stay longer, and notice that we don't have a comma here if I start with the second part. If they had more time. If here is the condition, they is the subject, had here as verb to, and more time. This is the complement. And for the type 2. This is the form. In the second part of the sentence, we have like the if condition, and the second part, the first part, the condition, and the second part we have the result. What would happen? If I were you, I would quit smoking. Here, condition and the result, the condition and the result. Compare this form, this structure to the sentences below. If I had a lot of money, I would travel the world. If I had a lot of money, I would travel the world. If she studied hard, she could pass the exam. If she studied hard, she could pass the exam. If I were you, I would stop smoking. If I were you, this is what the condition, the first part of the clause. The second part, I would stop smoking. I would stop smoking. Notice that these are some exercises in order to practice using type 2, using the second conditional. Yes, if I were you, I would want to be a doctor. I would want to be a doctor. لو كنت مكانك, I would want to be a doctor. If I knew the answer, I would tell it to you. I would tell it to you. If Mary had time, she would visit her boyfriend. If I understood what the teacher said, I could tell you. And here are some more examples of using the second conditional. As you know, students, the second conditional is very important in building our English grammar. I hope you enjoyed the lesson, and thank you for listening.